What's up, everybody? It's your boy back with another reaction video. Today, we will be watching Pathways into Darkness. This is a review by MandaloreGaming. I will be putting a link in the description down below so you can go to his channel, check it out, like, comment, subscribe, watch all his stuff on repeat. And if you enjoyed my reaction, then hope you do the same here on my channel. But anyway, without further ado, here we go. Okay.
When
I need
hear
to make
90s
another
dungeon
intro.
crawler, I usually think of Eye of the Beholder, or Dungeon Master, or of course Ultima Underworld. It also reminds me of a lot of adults worrying about Satan, so I wasn't playing a lot of these games until years later.
They're gonna make
Even
our
still,
kids
I rarely
Satan
see Pathways
worshippers.
into Darkness brought up. It's pretty ambitious for a game that was only developed by 3 people. Wolfenstein 3D had only come out a year before this in 1992, and this would be a combination first-person shooter and dungeon crawler. Originally, it was going to be a sequel to the designer's previous game, Minotaur: The Labyrinths of Crete. Well, that didn't happen, and Pathways is now its own thing. As for its obscurity, well, this was a Mac-only game, and if you did jump the hoops to play it, the game would look like this. Saying the studio had enough developers to be called a team was generous. They're not getting an Ultima Underworld interface. Fortunately, it now plays on Mac, Windows, and Linux thanks to an excellent Aleph 1 port. This is all thanks to the work of Hope I don't have to say that again. Anyhow,
Yeah.
this will make your game playable, but you'll really have to read up on the controls. Though if you're playing a dungeon crawler, that should already be on the itinerary.
I wouldn't even
But for
try to
example,
pronounce
here the
that. It's
microphone
like
button
this
will open
person.
your inventory, so you'll need to read carefully, binding everything upright. That leads to the actual manual and what this is all about. Spring 1994, the Pentagon. The American president is briefed by his staff.
1994.
They're interrupted by a hologram from an alien race called the Yarrow. The
Oh,
alien
what's
diplomat
that?
informs them they have barely over
That
a week
was
to save the
7.
world.
I think I was
Its name
turning
is
8 that
Rio
year.
Toth, and it tries its best to break down the situation into Bill Clinton-friendly
I think.
terms. It turns
Yeah.
out the object that killed the
How old
dinosaurs
am I?
remained intact after impact. It was buried thousands of feet underground, and after some millennia, it began to dream. The object is a member of a race so ancient that it was formed before the Milky Way was dust. This particular one, whose name no human throat will learn to pronounce, fought in a war that formed the Magellanic Clouds.
No human throat's
It
gonna
died
even
there,
attempt.
though Rio Toth specifies that it's more like it came as close to dying as it can. The
See,
dead gods dreaming have been warping
break
reality beneath
dancing.
the surface of the planet.
Oh,
But over the past
Forrest,
century,
I
the
bought
changes
that
have
game.
begun
I need to
appearing in the
play it.
jungles above, including the sporadic
Said I'm gonna
appearance of a
stream
strange
it, but
pyramid. The
we'll
Elder
see.
God is awakening.
Never
There's only one hope.
decide to do that.
The pyramid leads down into the earth near the god's body. The Yarrow have researched human technology.
So
and
what
found
is
that
this
using
the
a nuclear
thing, or
device
is
that
some
depth
shit
will bury
to
the god
eat
further
now?
and send it back to sleep? The Yarrow themselves are on the way, but it'll take them 2 years. When they arrive, they'll get rid of it properly. So Bill Clinton sends a spec ops team to kill God. This sentence alone sounds more like a Persona game.
Is he making
You
this
play one of
up,
these commandos.
or is this an
Your
actual
parachute didn't
game?
Deploy, most of your equipment is damaged, and your team is gone. All you can do is set
This
off
is from the
alone to
actual
pyramid.
game.
This is where the game begins, and there's no telling what waits in there. Taking the first steps in, and the pyramid doesn't look too eldritch. The game is completely silent, and there's a skeleton in the corner with a copy of Mein Kampf. It says it
Wow.
would be good reading because I don't know German. Once again,
Wow.
gamers are thwarted by bad
Just because of
localization.
that.
So I'm going to shelve that for now and talk
It
about the
will make good
graphics.
reading just
The
because it's in German.
environments are pretty simplistic. Different levels can have different wall patterns, but sometimes the colors are just swapped around. But there are still some details like strange growths or pillars or bones and debris scattered around. There are some distinct areas, and there is some environmental storytelling to be found. By its nature, it still is mostly very repetitive, but corpses are very important in Pathways, and they do make those hard to miss. The art they do for the characters is colorful, detailed, and stylish. And yes, these are characters. This especially goes for the monsters you encounter. They have a lot of personality to them, with some designs I haven't seen in another
Oh,
game,
the
for better
fuck?
and worse. Even with a generic enemy like a slime, Pathways has its own unique spin on it, instead giving you ooze men with giant gaping maws in their chest. Like the environments, there are some recolors of these too, but they usually indicate having a new special ability or needing some new way to deal with them. The only things in the whatever
That's
territory are the lightning orbs. I don't remember what they're called, but they exclusively live in the labyrinth of shocking ball torture. And frankly, who gives a shit? Considering all the graphics in the game are credited to a single dude, it's pretty cool just how much
Fucking
there actually
Marv
is.
stream.
What you're fighting can be a strange mashup, but they're colorful and appealing. It is a dead god's dream, so who am I to question? As for the music, there is no music. No
Oh,
ambient
wow.
sound here either.
That sucks.
You mainly hear things trying to murder you and the sound of you murdering them. It is the kind of thing you can just put your own music on for, but a lot of times you may not see an attack, but you will hear an attack. You might stop for a moment and take a break when suddenly a bone explodes out of the darkness like a John Wilkes Booth Marowak is lurking there waiting for you.
Oh.
The ambushes are near constant and the sound has aged poorly. It gets better later, but the beginning will involve a lot of those things squealing.
This sounds like somebody is a yelping dog.
There are so many headless. I thought this was the whole game at one point. It is weird going from just dead silence to pure chaos. It gets better later when you can drive a lot with your own gunfire,
yeah, it's
but
kind
in
of
the
annoying.
beginning, it can drive you crazy.
Wow, does he actually say that? What is the tone of this?
There's really only one sound effect of note, which is the sound the Elder God makes if you fail your mission.
I couldn't
and
play
keep
this
killed in
any
time.
length of
I
time.
think I've heard it before, but I'm not
Start
sure
to
where.
feel with rage.
It's mainly a bad, compression-filled nightmare. I do like the sound of those exploding. So here's how you play it. As far as dungeon crawlers go, item management isn't too crazy. Most of your equipment was damaged, but you have to things starting out. Thankfully, you do have a map and pathways. It's an auto map that fills out where you've been and even marks important locations like exits and corpses. This by itself saves a lot of headaches, though there are levels where it can reset to throw you off. Though these areas aren't the most convoluted ones, so it's fine. If you're paying attention, it might even show you where a false wall is, though it doesn't always do this. Still, many of these games gave you no map. You've also got your trusty watch since the entire game is timed. The manual says the nuke should be detonated before 2 p.m. on Friday the 13th. Though strangely,
I guess listening to all
until a
these
little bit after
fucking
6 p.m.
annoying noises make you speed
so you have
run
a little
this
bit over
anyway.
5 actual days to do this. The catch is that you heal by resting, and when you rest, that'll speed things up. So you can take the watch off to not always have the clock staring at you, but it's always ticking down. Your flashlight will last the whole journey, but there are some times when you don't want to use it, and you will miss that visibility. Finally, you have your canvas bag. This is where some people can be thrown off. See, in the vanilla game, the weight of all of your items was tracked in the UI. So based on this and some other containers you find, you would think you have to do some item juggling. Well, the LF1 port doesn't track weight at all because the weight is meaningless. There may be a bag of holding, but the points don't matter and never did. This may have been something more at one point, but was likely cut in development. They probably realized that deciding what items to keep from OhMyItseli's increasingly cryptic garage sale wasn't worth that extra layer of torture. Knowing how to use a container is important for beating the game, but really you can grab everything you see. And you should. Finding treasures and special items increases your maximum health. It won't heal you right on pickup, but after a good sleep you'll survive some more assassination attempts. As for the weapons, there are a few to find, but ammo is frequently scarce. Along with Hitler's live journal, one of the first items you find in the game is a Walther P4. Using Nazi technology is a long military tradition here, so of course you grab that. However, you're not familiar with any of the weapons you come across. But the more you use a weapon, the more experience you gain in it, which translates to dumping out more damage. This is about as far as actual RPG mechanics go. There are wearable items like rings that can buff you or maybe hurt you, but you're not rotating through new armor or equipment like that. You can experiment to figure some things out, but a lot of it remains cryptic. At one point I found an equipable gas mask and I had no clue what it did. After beating the game I looked up the official hint guide, which was also vague, and it turned out it's supposed to protect me from something I would not have guessed, and apparently it doesn't always work for everyone for reasons unknown. Oh right, there is spellcasting. Yeah, see, he's frozen forever. Magic mainly acts as your secondary weapon, mainly elemental effects like freezing, lightning, or fire. You gain a new spell by finding and equipping an appropriate crystal. As you'd expect, there's still an element of mystery here. When you cast a spell, the crystal recharges through methods unknown. It'll then recharge slightly slower after each use. Eventually the crystal will shatter, and that is the end of that spell for the rest of the game. The crystals don't have the same number of uses either. What ramps up the paranoia here is that there are some enemies that are immune to conventional weapons. So instead of obliterating every skeleton on sight, you have to be more selective. This idea makes sense by itself, but Pathways is a mishmash when it comes to combat and resources. For one, this is a very slow-moving game. The LF1 version does support mouse look, but it's even more hypersensitive here than some other games. Some titles get vastly improved from mouse aim, but this isn't one of those. Keyboard aiming is the way to go here, and it's not like you can look up and down anyways. You can bind some keys for panning and some quick
was that thing just run under you shoot
you'll be turning a lot more quickly.
You would think it would just automatically hit whatever's in front of you, the closest thing to you.
It takes time getting used to this again, but it's perfectly fine. Fighting has a very deliberate rhythm to it. In the beginning, you're typically waiting for the enemy to make the attack, either dodging out of the way or blocking it off with an obstacle.
Everything is a fucking projectile.
It sounds simple, and it is. The thing is, moving at the pace of a sloth with life alert really changes up how you interact with the game. You're not playing on your feet reacting to high-speed plays,
Whoa.
reacting to a flying walrus slowly rolling around the corner. Dodging shots can only happen if you have room to do it, and frequently, you won't. More than anything, your positioning is the key to success. Checking for an escape is a constant, and you need to be wondering what will happen if an enemy comes around. This makes advancing down a long, barren hallway a death trap. If the enemy attacks first, you're near guaranteed to take some damage. But your guns do less damage at long range, which means spending more ammo. Not to mention this is one of those magical games where enemy attacks can come through solid corners. I'll come back to you again one day, Kane. Still, you can get the
I always
weapons
hated
figured
that
out,
when
and you
they
have room to move, you can start going
games that
through
make your
At
weapons
first,
less
it seems like the
effective
difficulties
at
came from
long range,
claustrophobic tight
or they do
spaces.
less
But as you get
damage.
more resources and new enemies
If
are
they say
introduced,
you
the maps will begin to
more
open up a
likely to
little more,
miss,
relying on
like
distractions and
give some
surrounding.
or whatever,
You can
but
see what they're
do
trying
less
to do.
damage than
Sometimes
I
it
was
does gel
irritated.
together, but I'd mainly call it awkward, inconsistent, kind of shitty. Now there is a turning point where this becomes a lot more fun. Once again, this is
Oh, it
mainly due to our
does.
old friend Kalashnikov. The issue is it's possible to miss out on AK Nirvana, and in fact it's possible to miss out on a lot of things. Some are fair expectations they expect you to investigate, others feel like failing a hidden test you didn't know you were taking. In other words, a 90s dungeon crawler. For example, playing the first few levels, you might swap between your pistol and your knife. Not playing wastefully, but using your pistol like a fly swatter if an enemy is in an awkward position. You feel like you're playing conservatively until you go up a ladder into the bone zone.
I like how he put this music on. It's like I gotta keep something
You
interesting
might think
going
this is
on.
the test for saving ammo, but it's not
Keep
this
the
one.
audience
The floor
attention
above
so
it
I
is
can
the
put
real
this
test.
music on.
In a simple layout, you face down
This
hordes of
damn game
enemies.
don't even have
I've
any
encountered some
music.
silly clown cars spawning before, but this is starting to creep into serious Sam territory. I can't help but wonder how this sequence actually ran back in the day. It might have been fine, which could explain the simple level layout, but man, if you didn't stock up for this portion, you might have to go a few saves back. Speaking of which, saving is done on points, so no quick saving. It can be dangerously easy to miss an item you'll need to go back for later, or go back some saves because your current situation is wasted. This kind of thing is not uncommon at all for the genre. It's not the most egregious I've played, and I got through with relatively few headaches, but it's so easy to
I
see
just
where a player
love
can
games like
overlook
that where you
something.
just stuck
Like, was there
between,
someone out there who
like
beat
in
the
a
game,
position where you
who
can't
didn't find the
progress
box
anymore.
that
You have
magically
to
prints
move.
you
You have to go
ammo?
back
Who are you?
and
What is
play
your
certain
destiny?
parts
You
over
can
again.
switch out types
You
of
just
ammo,
love
and this
that.
makes all of them. I truly hope you're theoretical and not watching this. Living in a world where you can't obliterate the earthquake skeletons on sight isn't one I want to be a part of. Once they're locked onto, you're in for the shake and bake no matter how many walls you put between them. It never ends with them. I haven't even gotten to the story, the game is just so weird enough without it. I'm not sure what the Elder God is really... Who the fuck are you? I'm not sure what this is about, but I cannot pass him. If anyone asks, he ran at me with a weapon.
He's
Oh, this is
invincible.
perfect. No magic either. Well, oh my god. Oh, this is like a tag team kind of deal. You know what? He wins. I'm gonna take the hallway out.
Uh-oh. You died in an earthquake.
One of the most important things you can do in figuring out how to progress is mastering the yellow crystal. Unlike the others, this one isn't for
What?
combat, and it has unlimited uses. This special rock lets you communicate with the dead. As long as their head is still attached anyways, I'm not sure how that works. Some corpses don't understand what's happening, and others are more caught up. They always respond to asking their name and how they died, but going from there you'll need to use more context clues. You only need to put in simple one-word responses, so asking about places, people, events, and objects allow you to dig further from there. This guess the word mechanic was in a lot of games from this era and can be incredibly convoluted. This isn't one of those,
And
and it's
incredibly
actually very
annoying.
straightforward. You just need to keep asking about things brought up and sometimes go back to the beginning and find a new tangent. This is how most of the story is told in Pathways, and it opens up a lot of mystery. There are a lot of corpses to talk to, and some will outright lie to you. For example, the remnants of the Nazi expedition had some soldiers who didn't know what they were in for. They're confused, they're cooperative, or outright hate their commanding officer. Talking to said officer, he might try to get you killed. Even as a rotting bone pile, he might still have his own skeletons to hide. Putting together the deeper details of the story and what really happened will mean that you'll have to thoroughly interview a bunch of dead guys and then piece it all together. Beyond that, they can be more helpful on the surface level too. Yeah, sometimes they spit out try not to die hints, but they can also reveal where extra ammo or useful items are hidden, though most importantly, they point you in the direction of what you need to do next. The first German that you encountered in the game tells you that the expedition leader was named Muller. He tells you about how shitty Muller was, but also that the door next to him opened up after he played on a strange instrument. So now you know what to look for and what to do with it, rather than aimlessly wandering the halls shanking noodle people. You still need to do that, it's just no longer aimless. Levels can mix up the challenges, but these conversations will give you a load of insight. There can also be additional hints, like the map name itself being a clue. The game does make earnest attempts to help you out, but a lot of it still remains obtuse or possibly meaningless, so you can still end up stuck or lost or wanting to look up a guide. Pathways into Darkness can be incredibly dickish to you, but unlike some of its peers, it doesn't feel like it's actively trying to be this way. Again, if you're playing this kind of game, you know the kind of pain to expect. Operating inside of that madhouse scale, this one is pretty generous. That said, there are moments like the level where you need thermal goggles to see invisible enemies, which then make regularly visible enemies invisible. Times where you need to take poison, areas that drain all your ammo out, whatever the hell is happening in the cursed IED tomb. But beyond those specifics, you're mainly kept concerned by the unknown. If you rest in a bad area, an enemy can ambush you. I mean, resting itself is something I kept avoiding. Any healing items I have I might need later. How much time
Well, yeah,
I
I guess so,
how far
because
down
it's
do these
timed.
pathways actually go? It does a good job keeping you anxious for what's next, making you stay on your toes and carefully manage your resources. The actual balance is all over the place, and starting out, you'll still probably die a lot. Looking back after having beaten the game, it's not as cruel as I expected. It's just that the start of the game is the hardest part to get through. You've got to be careful, but
The
you can figure
start
it
of
out.
the game is the hardest part. It's like people say, like, you
That
know,
leaves us with the
that
details of the story.
that
If you don't want
TV
spoilers,
show,
go to
you can
here.
get through the first trailer. I mean, the first
So we
season.
start in 1938.
That's when it gets
A Nazi military expedition was sent to the pyramid.
well, the
because
first
they're
few
always looking for
episodes. That's
occult
when it gets
objects to give them
good.
an advantage. What they were told they were looking for and what they were actually looking for are pretty different, assuming the grunts even knew a fake reason. Those who thought they were in the loop believed it was a treasure hunt. They were looking for artifacts and gold, which are here to be fair, but after enough info gathering you find he was looking for a box and a vial of immense power. The vial contains the essence of a demon that will help the Nazis win the upcoming war. How it's supposed to do this isn't clear. However, the small cedar box has much more obvious power to it. Any object placed inside is duplicated after a few minutes. That could be a game changer, but it does tie into the gold somehow. Muller orders one of his soldiers to find the gold. Because the box can duplicate anything, you should only need one ingot, which is exactly what Muller says, but he's also adamant they'll need 12 to do something. It seems like it had a purpose beyond just finding loot, but what that could be, I have no idea. Gameplay-wise, you do get a ton of
Like,
health
what
from
kind
it,
of-
but the game's basically over at this point. I can only guess
Don't-
was
don't
needed
tell
for
us
some kind of puzzle
why.
with that cut, maybe involving
Just
the
do
bag
it.
of holding. Lugging around a Minecraft amount of gold sounds like something that would make a weight system matter, so just add it to the pile of Nazi gold mysteries. Confronting Muller on what you know is no good since he can't stop lying. What he actually knew you have to put together from what the other characters tell you. Muller is clearly incompetent, but knows a startling amount about how the
He's
pyramid
incompetent
functions.
and he's a liar.
He knows exactly where a
Jeez.
strange SCP object is
Deadly
buried,
combination.
how to get it, and there is no trace of any other human entering the pyramid before. To top it off, they mention another expedition coming through, and you later find out that it was decades later. These guys were a lot more local than Germans, possibly Cuban. When you talk to one of them, he reveals he got the information from his friend's grandfather. So the Germans had more intimate knowledge of the Yucatan pyramid than even the locals did. There are also the instruments that open doorways, and they're called the alien pipes. Muller already had one that
And
he
this
brought
is
from
all
Germany. So Nazi
God's
High Command has intimate
dream.
knowledge of the pyramid and an object that lets them break into it. They know exactly what they're
This is
looking
like
for
with
because
someone's
they believe it'll
trying
make
to
them win
be
the war. So the question is, how
weird
do they
and
know
out
this?
there just for the
It's
sake of
possible
being
they had
weird out
passed
there.
down knowledge or some lone wolf came to them with it. At the same time, there's definitely a group that knows way more, and they briefed us on the mission.
Oh, you
The
ain't
Soviet
going
Union
nowhere,
had just
boy.
collapsed, and in military technology, the United States was leading the way. But in 1938, the Yarrow might have thought the Nazis would be a good candidate for entering the pyramid. But now the Elder God is waking up in a week, and they've been silent about it for 60 years then. Was a week's notice really the best they could do? If they told the Germans, did they want them to have the vial in the box? Or maybe they farm dead Elder Gods for the objects created through their delusions. Maybe there's a reason the Yarrow don't want to go into the pyramid. You could have been briefed on finer details, but you don't
Yeah,
remember
maybe
what
because
their
they
story
mind
books
their own
look like.
fucking business.
Some are
Maybe that's
insulted,
why.
but maybe you hit your head really hard in the crash. Either way, there's something that doesn't add up about everything. Oh yeah, there's also the
Hit
Nazi
your
who said
head
it was
really hard in
12
the
days
crash
ago.
and you're crazy.
Or maybe hundreds. 16 Sundays. He's been counting, and don't worry about his name. He also won't tell him your name. You know him, he who rises with the tides, master of all things small and insignificant. No, not tides
You
like
know
that.
him.
It all makes sense. This guy's not dead
Know
anyhow.
him.
He'll catch up with you soon. Pretty straightforward, I think. Your squad mates are a lot more happy to see you. They don't have any deeper insight for you into what's happening, but they help you progress through the mission. For one, you have to find out where the nuke is, and in an ancient DRM method, the code to detonate it is inside of the manual. However, by talking to your squad mates, you also find out that part of the number has changed. You can also find out who has a radio beacon to call for extraction when the mission is done. The game can end in several different variations. If you don't have a beacon, you can still escape on foot, but it'll take some hours. The bomb itself can only be set for a max 48-hour timer, so you can complete the mission and die in a few ways, forget to set the nuke, or the Elder God wakes up.
You can forget to set
Again, it's more stuff people might forget about on the way down, or they don't have the new arming code. Either way, you're going to be the only possible survivor.
Yeah, so this nuke is going to stop this Elder God from waking up.
The enemy variety you face is really strange. Besides the monsters, there are all kinds of flavors of undead. Most appear to be humans, but the phantoms are odd. The Germans can call them ghosts or phantasms, but Muller specifically calls them shades. That's a more specific ancient Greek term for an underworld spirit. While some manifestations are based on humans in the world we know, others clearly are not, since this god has been around. They get deadlier the deeper you go, and before you get to the detonation site, you can speak to a Cuban explorer. In a mirror story, they were also seeking the demon vial, being told it had great power. Unfortunately, one of them opened the vial, and the demon escaped.
Of course.
Shit. Interestingly, the old man who eavesdropped on the Germans calls it a being over a demon. Now, this could be tomatoes and tomatoes, but that's a very different connotation. When you do face the demon down, you have to go through rooms and rooms of monsters. You can't harm it, but it also can't directly attack you. So your final battle isn't even directly against the Elder God, which isn't aware of you or actively even trying to fight you. It's whatever this shady bottle genie is. This is the part where I especially wonder how someone beats the game without the cedar box. You face a swarm of every enemy you've encountered, but after that it only takes one hit to banish the dude.
Just run up and stab
Yeah,
it.
that weird electric beep is the sound it makes. It leaves behind an alien gemstone, which is the only way to open up the door back upstairs. It also drains your health, so unless you picked up a special box on the way down to store it in, you're still out of luck. After that, you can arm and leave the nuke, a copy of Mein Kampf if you want, and once you escape, you're good to go.
Don't forget your copy of Mein Kampf as you exit the damn pyramid.
You get your score and not much of a debriefing. So, did the Elder God create the demon vial? Could an Elder being like that
stop the Elder God,
its main power seems to be that it's
you actually fight the Elder God and stop it. Why do you need to blow
Having
the
limited
place
control or even understanding of a god's powers could be huge.
Just to hide it so no one else goes in
out the vial, and could explain why the Yarrow would want it. But how feasible could that idea be? Well, there was mention of someone who had weird and frightening monsters under their control. You know, on the Illuminati terminal. And Marathon. Welcome, friends. Welcome to hell. It's one of Bungie's first games, and it's still a loose prequel to Marathon. Destiny's reveal trailer was called Pathways Out of Darkness. This now obscure dungeon crawler has remained very important to a select few. So how does this tie into Marathon? Well, for one, the Yarrow will become very significant. The being that's buried in the earth will also make more sense. It also establishes beyond speculation that in this setting there are elites who have made contact with aliens, or at least aware of them. The fact the plan involved going to Tau Ceti specifically, and that Durandal was even looking for aliens to contact, might not have been so random. Some of the pyramid's creatures have strange similarities to the Svit, but the Svit are mostly cybernetics now, so what happened in their history? It could be their visual designs Bungie liked, or maybe there was something more. As for the player who escaped a reality-bending pyramid with a bunch of valuable
just continuity is not
likely the government would ever allow that body to be properly buried. Those with a special interest might have had it preserved for study, and in the far future, having you back alive at Tau Ceti just in case would make sense. Going in alone with a pistol against some possible odds and an alien threat did feel oddly familiar to you, but you can't quite remember it. Maybe you did become the cyborg, but then, where are the Yarrow?
Somewhere.
Pathways itself leaves a lot unanswered, but some future games might be more enlightening. It's just another page in this House of Leaves asylum. As for recommendations, it's free, not too brutal, and not having too much inventory to manage could be appealing. It is great to see how much an FPS could be even this early on, but a lot of the good gameplay ideas it has were expanded on, and a lot of them not too late after this game came out. You could point to any gameplay element, and someone else has done it better. Some of them being done not too long after Marathon came out, and some of them being done by Bungie themselves. When similar things came after, I think I was repeating myself a little. The actual premise and idea of this game is awesome. It's the kind of game that's in prime remake or successor material. The combined mechanics of shooting, adventuring, and talking to the dead is really unique, and it absolutely could be done so much better nowadays. It also just goes to show how much just a little bit of interesting writing can elevate a game. This easily could have been you have to go blow up a haunted pyramid, and mechanically, it would remain largely the same. By having a premise that's interesting and strange, it completely changes the tone of the game. Sure, the monsters are glorified Halloween decorations by today's standards, but it's nice to have something more underneath it all. It's a neat little game. I'll see you next time.
Hmm. I mean, I don't know that music, the lack of music, I should say, like that really annoys me. And then the sounds those things made were particularly annoying. Like listening to that, I just imagine playing this game for any length of time and just listening. I was like, yeah, maybe you used to because you feel like you're getting. If you feel the sense, you have the sense of progression. Maybe it'd be fine to play. I don't know. But looking at that, I mean, like I said, I ain't played the game obviously, but I don't know. Pathological looked cool. I liked his recommendation for that. I actually saw that for sale. I think it was on Steam. I didn't get it though. I thought about getting it. I think it was because I thought it was interesting. I said, wait a minute. I just watched. Well, I didn't just watch it, but it was like, I don't know, a week or two later. And then after I watched it, and then it was on sale on Steam. I was like, so I think it was both, like pathologic and pathological two together. But I didn't get them. But I think they're on PlayStation now. I think, one of them is on PlayStation. I had to look that up. But this game, I don't know. It's just, I don't mind like repetitive games because it pretty much seems like nothing really changed. I mean, you get more. It's as the game progresses, obviously it gets harder. But I don't know if the actual creatures in this change a whole lot. Like, or are they the same throughout the game? They just become they become more bullet sponges. I play games like that, where it's pretty much the same creatures throughout the whole game. They just get harder as the game progresses. But I mean, it could be fun. I don't know. Didn't really look fun. just looking at it, because Usually he like convinces me, like, you know what, the game didn't look really fun, but listening to him review it and talk about it made me want to play it, but not this game. like Marathon looked interesting. And I mean, I played games like that. Like I said, I played. I think it was either original Doom or Doom 2. Plus, I played Doom 64 when I was younger, and GoldenEye. So I just kind of just group all them games. See, like the first person shooters like that back then, like they all grouped together. But just because I'm trying to get the benefit of the doubt, because he said, "Oh, it's a fun game," so I'm just looking at it like, it is. Don't look fun. It doesn't look fun. But you never know. Like looking at a game and why does somebody play it is not the same as actually playing it. So it could be you could play it. It could be a great game. There've been games I played where people thought like the majority were that the game was trash, and I liked it. So, but there are other games that I do agree with that were trash. But I try to like force myself to like it because I like the premise. What was that game? Uh, Damn it! It was just in my head, and it's like it just went away. Never did. Like never did was a game that the premise that my brother told me about it, and the premise was very interesting to me. About basically a guy who's a demon hunter, and then he was cursed by a demon with immortality, and when you play the game, like he can be pretty much torn apart, and you have to roll the pieces over to make him form back together, stuff like that. You can shoot with a gun with two guns, or use his sword. It's almost like a, I don't know, a butterfly type sword, but he like comes out and like switches out. It's weird, but it was interesting. But the premise, I was like, huh, it's interesting premise. And I bought the game, started playing the game, and that whole falling apart thing became very annoying very quickly, especially because some parts they are puzzles and platforming in that game where you have to explode yourself and then roll around as your head, like platforming and rolling around on different areas to get to other areas you can't fit into, and to get yourself like to progress. And it's very annoying. And then they introduce monsters that like can suck up your head. And I think I remember reading about the description of the monster. I think they said they digest you for 1,000 years, some shit. And if they suck up your head, then the game is over. You have to, start back from the last checkpoint. And I hated that, and because you be looking for your body, and if you don't, you can see at least see your body, through walls and stuff. You say, oh, this piece is here and this piece is over there, whatever. But it got so annoying so fast, and it was so easy. Well, at least in the beginning of that game, to get blown apart, get legs ripped off and stuff like that, arms ripped off. This is annoying. And then I remember selling that game. I think I played that game. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 hours. I don't know, but I ended up cutting that game off. I kept it around and ended up wanting to get another game. This was back in the day when I used to trade a lot of games to get new games. And I ended up trading that game. Then years later, bought the game again. Because I was like, you know what? Maybe I didn't get that game a good chance. Maybe I was just at a bad part in my life and I was just frustrated with things. And like, maybe I didn't get. I do that with movies sometimes. Maybe I wasn't in a good mood for those 4 or 5 hours when I played the game. It's like maybe I need to look at it again. Maybe I need to play it again. And I bought that game again and started playing it. And I think I played for probably around might have been around the same amount of time. Or might have been actually less. And I was just like, no. I gave it a second go. And I like, this game is no, I don't like this. Guy can't sell like that. Can't sell like that at all. But I don't know. Just looking at this game, just like, But I mean, I ain't gonna play it. Pathological, I might play. I might if I can. I might actually buy that. I see it again. Whenever I fucking start doing gameplays, keep saying I'm gonna do it. I keep getting lazy and not doing it. And I don't know if I'm gonna do it on this channel that I'm uploading this video on, or if I'm going to put them on another channel. I'll start a gaming channel, like OhMyItsEli Gaming or something. I don't know, but it may be easier just doing this channel. And I already have games on this channel that I play. I guess it just used to be a gaming channel, but then I fucked up a bunch of recordings, and then I ended up having to delete all of them, and I just never play another game on this channel again, or recorded another video game again. I don't know, man, because I know, like when you have one channel and then you do stuff on, and then you do something completely different and add that content on that same channel, people look like, I didn't follow you, or I didn't subscribe to your channel, for this. I subscribed to your channel for that. I subscribe to your channel for the reactions, not the gameplay. I don't know. I've seen channels that do both, and some of them don't have a problem. I know that I've seen channels where they start doing gameplays and then they start doing reaction, but they have a different channel for that, or they vice versa. But we'll see. Maybe I'll do that. Put it on this channel and see. Start actually looking more at the comments, get people's feedback, uh, and see if there's a big issue. Maybe it won't be an issue because I'm still under 1,000 subscribers. So it's not like you have 10,000 subscribers and you're a reaction channel, and then you just start doing gameplays. Doing a bunch of LPs and people are like, what the fuck is this? Like, see. But we'll see. Anyway, this was good. This is a good video. I enjoy his review. Not so much the game. He ain't sell me so much on the game being great, but I enjoy his review of the game. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed my reaction one. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe when you're here. Hit that bell. Let me know if I want to upload new videos. Comment down below. Share the video. I'll see you next time. Peace.